And welcome to the tour report from Secret Golf. Well, this week, it feels like a major week, if I'm being honest with you. It's the WM Phoenix Open. It's also Super Bowl week, and Elk Super Bowl being held 20-something miles away from the course. It is going to be a crazy, crazy weekend in Arizona.
Yes, and I'm bringing my half of the show to you from Scottsdale right now. Diane flew in over that scene yesterday, and just looking at the infrastructure that's built into the TPC Scottsdale certainly isn't the way I remembered it, Diane, back in the day, but it's going to be fabulous. There's expected 200,000 people a day to go to this tournament this year. Wow. Our friend Stu Redson, who's the chief marketing officer, has got everything organized out there. They've got bands going every night on 16. The course is perfect. I've got a complete update of what the course is looking like. We'll get into that. But the weather, Diane, is 75 all week. It's been very dry out here. Perfect conditions for scoring.
Okay. I went to the tournament last year. It had been on my bucket list forever. And my husband and I were like, right, let's go and enjoy it. We were hoping that the baby was going to be around the corner. So we thought this could be our last hurrah. And it turns out it was before the pregnancy. But we had just an amazing time. There's no atmosphere like it. I mean, you see it on TV and you hear stories about 16, but it is just unbelievable. If you're going to seriously follow 18 holes of golf, it's kind of frustrating, especially when you get to 15, 16, 17, 18 are just like a wipeout. You have to just embrace it and go with the flow. But the tournament is just incredible. As you say, Stu Redson, good friend of yours. He's one of the top guys when it comes to putting on the tournament from Waste Management, and we'll get the inside scoop from him. But they go above and beyond to make this tournament so special for the fans, and this year even more special for the players because it's one of the PGA Tour's elevated events with a purse of $20 million.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, this is probably going to be a pretty easy handicapping week for us. I'll tell you why. I see you nodding your head the other way, but when you start to think about a $20 million purse, $3.5 million, and you've got something like 24 of the top 25 available from the PGA Tour playing in this event, what that does, Diane, is if you take the top 25 players that are playing this week and you think, okay, how many of those guys are going to make the cut? And it's probably going to be 75% of them. So there's 20 guys already of the top players that are going to make the cut. So there's only like 45 spots left for these rest of the guys to get into. And so there's a lot more pressure this week, Diane, to make the cut to get into that big money. So when I say it's slightly easier to handicap, when all the best players play, they all finish up rising to the top, Diane, which is puts a big squeeze on the guys down below.
I struggled a little bit this week with my picks, I'm not going to lie. That's why I gave the nod of the head, because I'm still in between who I'm going to end up with. But it's, obviously this tournament's been going on for a long time. It's one of the longest running at this course on the PGA Tour. And now that it has this elevated status, is it going to have a different feel to it, especially for, looking at the guys that are maybe kind of middle of the FedEx Cup standings? Do you think it's going to feel, almost major-esque, like bigger, more pressure, more to play for, obviously?
More to play for sure. Won't feel like a major. I just don't think that atmosphere will cross over where you have that sort of party atmosphere, the party scene crossing over into a major where it's more quieter, more reserved, more historical thinking. But certainly this is a whole new deal for these players. And as I said a minute ago, there's going to be more pressure on the average players to try to get into the cut. I mean, take, for example, Jason Duffner, who's having a disaster season, been missing cuts all over. But if he plays good this week, then that's all he really needed out of this trip out west. So a lot of pressure. There is a certain, what we call a formula to play well in this event. I've looked at the last 10 champions that have played, and it's pretty obvious to me how this is going to shake out.
Okay, right, we'll get onto that. Going back to Duffner quickly at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, he was playing with Russell, so I was tracking his round, and with the weather delays, and it was like 4 seasons in a day over there, but he was so close to making the cut, and then just had a bad hole where it all kind of blew up, and then that led to an early withdrawal because of the
hit it in the bush. It started hailing. This is in the morning at 8 a.m. in the morning on the hardest hole. I mean, can't get a break. Plays the hardest. You know, you could wake up after a rain delay and play an easy hole downwind, but in this case he needed to have a couple pars to make the cut, and played the hardest hole into the wind, into the hail, finished up just getting totally frustrated and walked off after he went into the bush. Anyway, let's put all that aside. Your brother had a decent week. He's here this week. I handicapped him. I looked at him pretty closely this week. So very interesting. You know, you are going to give us a little update on the biggest pre-qualifying happened yesterday. It was the talk of the town when I got here last night.
So the initial pre-qualifying tournament, 624 golfers signed up. And then I've got the guys, there was only 3 spots available. And if you don't follow the account at Monday Q Info on Twitter, it's really an interesting place because at a case of the Golf One, they follow all the Monday qualifying events, and there's just such good stories. You know, I love a story to come out of it, but there's a guy, Brett White, who qualified, and he had a brain infection. 5 years ago, he had to relearn how to walk. I mean, 5 years ago. So he made it through, which is just fantastic. And he was on Twitter just saying thank you to his sponsors and everyone for getting him out there. Another guy, Andre Metzger, who lives just 10 minutes from the course. And they said to him, you know, it's going to be great because you can obviously save money this week because you get to stay at home. And he said, I've got no money to save. So it just shows, you know, there's some great tales that come from the guys that are able to Monday qualify and have this opportunity. But these 3 guys that made it have a combined 35 seasons as pros, 4 combined PGA Tour starts, and they're going to be playing in this $20 million field this week. So, you know, those are names that you have to root for.
Yes, of course you do. And of course, this whole $20 million elevated events is kind of, you know, put a bit of a black cloud over Pebble Beach last week. We saw Justin Rose. It was a very poor event last week at Pebble Beach, but we got a great champion in Justin Rose making a comeback of his own through, you know, hard work. Hasn't been playing well 4 years. He's been outside of the winner's circle. Had a great day yesterday. Shot, I think, 6 under with the lead. Fantastic win for him. But it's sort of the have and have nots. But of course, it's all about who has this week, Diane, with this incredible crowd they're going to have at 16, 17, 18. It used to be just 16. Now it's almost the whole course. You know, a little update about the golf course. There is no rough to worry about this week, Diane, which changes a lot of handicapping in our mind. Long hitters paradise this week. Course is very dry. It's all overseeded, of course, out here in the desert. Bright green, very dry. So course is perfect, set up for scoring.
You really hear it when you get to 15, the par 5, which is such an exciting hole before the guys move across to 16. But as you're walking down the fairway and approaching the kind of, you know, back of the tee at the stadium area, and you've got 15 green there, you just hear, it's like it starts to bubble. Can I just say I had picked Justin Rose a week too early. He was one of my picks for the Farmers. And then, I mean, I knew that his form was really coming around. And it was great to see him get that win. First European to ever win the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. But you had picked Sam Ryder as your dark horse for the Farmers. And we know how that went. You had picked Kevin Yu as your dark horse for Pebble Beach last week. And he ended up finishing within the top 10. And I've already had people get in touch telling me that they took your pick and they made money off it. So you're on a little roll right now.
Yeah, and you know, as you study these players and you look at all the stuff that we look at, you start to see these slight trends, Diane. You start to think about the history of the event. What does it take to do well at these courses? What sort of skill set do these guys have? What kind of a role are they on? What kind of percentage do they have of playing well this week? And it starts to make a little bit of sense. Now, I'm riding a little bit of a wave. I'm sure it's going to be you soon. So can't wait to hear your picks for this week.
As I said, I struggled a little bit this week, but we've got 18 of the top 20 in the world. Only 2 aren't playing. Cam Smith, who of course is with Liv, and Will Zalatoris, who has chosen to sit this one out. But everyone else is there. Rory McIlroy back on US soil after winning in Dubai just a couple of weeks ago. Jon Rahm, obviously, who lives close by. Scottie Scheffler, defending champion after winning that playoff with Patrick Cantlay last year. So, as you said, all the big names, the elevated event, Super Bowl weekend, it's just got all the makings for a phenomenal PGA Tour event, and I hope that the finish is as exciting as we hope. Now, I was having a look at the course, and I want to get your opinion on this. What do you make of the correlation between TPC Scottsdale and TPC Sawgrass? And I only ask that because you look at the guys that have won here, and it's pretty cool that 9 of the last 10 winners have been either major champions or players champions. And we have Ricky Fowler, Webb Simpson, and Phil Mickelson, who all have won both. Do you see that as being quite a good, correlation course?
Well, it's a good question. Tom Weiskopf, of course, the late Tom Weiskopf, they'll be having a ceremony for him on the 17th hole, I think today or in the morning. Tom, of course, passed away not too long ago this season. No, I think it takes more pizzazz of the players to win this one. I think there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of nervy for the young players that haven't played here. It takes a little bit of experience. There's 3 short par 5s on this course, which really suits a lot for the long hitters. Mm-hmm. And then historically speaking, on this golf course, Diane, you haven't really had to putt that good to win this tournament. None of the champions have really finished like in the top 5 in putting like you would see at, say, Pebble Beach or something. It's more of a big driving. Proximity to the hole is the key this week, and sort of overall putting. Last year, I think Scottie Scheffler was way up there in driving distance, top 10. Rahm was right behind him. Big distance off the tee, but the proximity, those two, and putting. Now, comparing that to, say, TPC Sawgrass, this is not as dangerous a course. Okay. However, you do see, as you mentioned a minute ago, 15 water left, 17 water left, 18 water left. We've seen some disasters happen coming in on this course. So it does favor some players, yes.
I love 17. You've got that risk reward, drivable par 4 with, as you say, the water, and adrenaline is pumping after getting through 16, which is definitely going to have an impact. I mean, I love how you use the word pizzazz, because with everything going on at this golf tournament, the guys that do well need to have that about them. They need to have that confidence and that spring in their step, and stepping up to that tee on 16 cannot be an easy thing to do.
Well, it's not just 16, it's 15, it's 17, it's 18. It takes a sort of a big player here, a big player. And that's why when I said to you at the top of the show, I think, there's an argument to be made, Diane, that I could throw out everyone that's playing this tournament that's a rookie. Okay. They're not going to beat the top 25 guys that have played here for 10 years plus. You can throw out all the guys that haven't made the cut here. And you can throw out all the guys that aren't in good form, and you're left with a small section of players that are left on this board, Diane. And that's what I'm looking at. And I'm looking at a certain skill set that they have that will work well for them.
Well, let's get into it. We each have 3 picks: outright favourites, 1 to watch, and then that dark horse with odds of over 100 to 1. Right, I'll let you do the honours since you're on this heater right now. Who are you putting at the top of the list this week?
Well, there's so many green, boxes at the top of this list. As you said, 24 or 23 of the top 25 players. I could pick any of them, but the favorite in my mind is not the number 1 player. Rory McIlroy is coming over here for the first time. He's only played this tournament once. I think he finished 14th a couple of years ago, Diane. Might have been last year. So he's not going to win it this year. Hits the ball right to left. I'm picking with Jon Rahm. The only difference between Rory and Rahm, they're almost the same exact stats, other than Rahm hits the ball left to right. And I like the ball curving away from the water, coming down the stretch every day. Rory's not really a hooker of the ball, Diane, but that water left, and that's his bias. I'm picking 2 stats. I'm picking 3 stats that all my players have in common this week: proximity to the hole, putting average, and a good record at this course. Of course, Rahm is the top of all 3. His proximity is great. His putting is top 10, and he's never missed a cut at this tournament. So he lives just down the road. He went to school at ASU. Yes, Rory's great in the desert as well. Scottie Scheffler, they're all great, but I got to pick one, Diane. I'm going with Jon Rahm.
Okay, and I think Ram's going to have a wee bit of a chip on his shoulder after his finish at the Farmers Insurance Open a few weeks ago. Yeah, he finished within the top 10, but he was...
And I think if he beats Rory this week, he goes back to number one. And I think he's taken a bit of criticism by some of the Golf Channel people that he's not a good iron player, or he's not really that this or that. But incredible player. I don't know where they're getting all that from, but Rahm is he's probably the most internal player out there. Yes, he's got all the physical skills, but he is determined.
Oh, there's a dog behind you.
I got 3 Bernese mountain dogs here at my house.
Hey, that dog was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay then. Right, well, my guy at the top, I'm going with someone who I found him at 35 to 1. So, well, let's look at Rahm, because he's going to be, I'm pretty sure he's favourite this week, isn't he? He is 8 to 1. 8 to 1. So I think my guy, 35 to 1 I found him at. And obviously with the sheer caliber of the field, he's been pushed down a little bit, which when I saw him at that price, I'm like, I'm definitely taking him. He's a 2-time WM Phoenix Open champion, winning in 16 and in 17. HIDEKI Matsuyama is going to be my pick. Now, he's got to feel confident when he steps on this property after winning twice before. Aside from that, he's never missed a cut here. And out with those 2 wins, an additional 5 top 15 finishes. So this course is clearly a great fit for his game. He's playing well too. He was in the mix at the Farmers a few weeks ago and finished within the top 10. So I loved Matsuyama. As I said, I found him like 28 to 1, the low end up to 35 to 1, which I think is a great price. So I'm taking Matsuyama for the 3-peat in Scottsdale as my outright favourite.
Yeah, I love Matsuyama. You know, when I look at his stats, I'm looking at the boxes that I like. He's got the putting boxes he's got fixed. They look good to me on his stats. His proximity to the hole is the only thing that pushed him down my board just slightly. Yeah. But yes, you know, there's horses for courses. Matsuyama's, this is his spot right here.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So you're going with Jon Rahm at the top and I'm going with HIDEKI. And then we move on to our ones to watch. This is the category that I've struggled with this week, but I'll let you go first. Give me a few extra minutes.
Yeah, I think Vegas knows, is thinking the way I'm thinking, Diane, which is this player is 150 to 1 and he's just barely out of the top 25 players. I'm talking about Brendan Todd. Mm-hmm. He has the three boxes ticked this week that I like, and he actually has a 4th box. He's 11th in proximity to the hole, 10th in putting. He's made 3 of 3 cuts at this tournament. And he finished 2nd at Pebble Beach last week. So he's playing great. As I said, Vegas knows that this board is stacked at the top with all the top players. So they're putting big odds on everyone below. But 150 to 1 for Brendan Todd is just ridiculous how good he plays at this course.
Yeah, I love it. And as you say, great week last week. So Brendan Todd, that is a fantastic pick, especially at those odds. I tell you, this is why I struggled, because I feel like my pick's a little bit boring. But if Taylor Montgomery wins a PGA Tour event and I have not picked him, then I'm throwing in the towel. And he's in the field this week on a sponsor's exemption. He grew up playing desert golf, being from Vegas, went to UNLV, leads the tour in overall putting average right now. And yeah, okay, you don't have to be a great putter around TPC Scottsdale, but that stat is going to win golf tournaments for you. And looking at his season so far, and this is obviously the reason why he got the sponsors exemption, 8 top 15 finishes in 10 starts.
He's sort of the new Will Zalatoris rookie that nobody's heard of, Taylor Montgomery. Yeah. I looked at him. He doesn't have any history of this course. He's going to be a little bit overrun when he sees the 16th hole and 17. Do I lay back? Do I attack? What do I do? And that's going to be the trick, and that's why Vegas has these odds so high, Diane. What are his odds this week?
60 to 1. And the word that's sticking in my head after you said it at the top of the show is pizzazz. And he's from Vegas, right? He's got to have pizzazz about him. So
got to.
I'm sticking with it. You know, the other guy I looked at who's not really a one to watch is Tom Kim. But
he's got pizzazz, that's for sure. He likes the moment.
Yeah, and he's 30-1. You know, did I pick him as my outright favourite? No, because I kind of fancied Matsuyama above him, but Tom Kim definitely is someone that I'm going to be looking at this week too. It's hard not to pick him, especially after getting that win in Vegas and this rookie season, 6 top 11 finishes, which is, again, him and Taylor Montgomery. Taylor's just missing that win, but it's just unbelievable from them.
Yeah, it'd be something if he could pull this off here in front of all these people, in front of all these other good players. This is a big, giant event. I mean, we have another one coming up in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks, but or is it next week? Is it next week?
Yeah, next week.
Back to back elevated events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Massive.
Okay, and then the dark horse picks. Now you are on your roll after picking Sam Ryder for the Farmers Insurance, and he almost did it. Finished within that top 5. And then Kevin Yu last week at Pebble Beach, who finished 7th. So we'll keep that suspense, and you can do your dark horse in a second. I'll go first.
Again, yeah, okay.
I don't know why I'm saying my picks are boring this week, and I'm not jumping on the back of one of yours, but I am going to go with Sam Ryder. And I told you about this when we had our little pre-production call. I was telling you that I think there's a great story with Sam. He's 250-1. And after the way that he played in San Diego a few weeks ago, I was really, really shocked, because he played great for 4 days. It's not like he had like one crazy low round. He was in it until the very, very end. So 250-1 after the way that he played. But also he had the moment of his career here last year on the 16th when he had that hole-in-one. And he's going to get an absolute hero's welcome when he steps back on that tee. He's 4 for 4 in cuts made here, which I know you're big on this week, and 2 top 10s this season. There's been a lot of missed cuts, but those 2 top 10s show that things are good. We learned a lot about him last week and where he's at with his game, what he's been working on, strengths off the tee and on the greens. So Sam Ryder, 250-1. Shall we just ride it and keep going with him?
Oh, it's a great pick. I mean, when you think about guys that make 4 out of 4 cuts that play well on this tournament, he's almost an expert at this. 4 out of 4 is not quite the big sample size, but it's very good. I mean, you know how you're going to feel on Friday. I mean, here we are on this show talking about what players feel like making the cut on this course. Normally speaking, they wouldn't even be worried about thinking about the cut, but they have so much drama that they have to play in front of at the end. A bounce here or there, a razzing from the crowd can rattle these guys, and that's what the rookies are up against today. That's what the rookies are up against this week. My pick, which is even unbelievable, 350-1 on a player that you know very well, Secret Golf contributor. 6 out of 7 cuts in the top 60 in proximity, in the top 30 in putting. So he's on a regular week, he would be right up there. Thinking about, possibly winning. 350-1 PATTON KIZZIRE, who probably, is one of the best putters. We've talked about how good he putts, like Ben Crenshaw drives it good. Having a quiet, good year, 6 out of 7 cuts, as I said, on this tournament. I'm going for people this week, Diane, that don't play poorly at TPC Scottsdale. They play well here. Yeah. What does that mean? Makes the cut. Not really worried that, I've got to get as you know, when we play on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app, when you have to pick 4 players, you need all 4 to make the cut. I want players. Look at the odds on this guy, 350-1. Dark horse for PATTON KIZZIRE. Are you kidding me?
And the other thing is he finished just outside the top 10, tied for 11th at the American Express just a few weeks ago. And those are courses where we see no rough. And we already know that TPC Scottsdale, the rough is going to be really down this week. So confidence has to be high for Patton right now. And again, another guy who's worked exceptionally hard to turn his game around and have a little bit more consistency. So those odds are crazy for him. I love it.
Yeah, we talk about Patton where he's won in Hawaii and won at Mayakoba, and then he goes off the rails for half the year, and then he comes back and wins again. I'm trying to ride that edge, which I've done it for the last 2 weeks on these dark horse. I'm riding a horse that plays well here, and he gets hot with the putter. He just literally runs the table. So that's what I'm looking at on my dark horse.
Okay, I want to just touch on a guy at 50 to 1, Sahith Theegala. Now, this tournament last year was kind of the making of him. It was the tournament that really put him on the map. He was in contention until the very end, finished third in the end. But remember, he had all of his family and his friends there, and they were making so much noise. And it was great. And you could see that he was, gutted at the end. But it was really the start of a phenomenal year of golf for Theegala. So at 50 to 1, and we've talked about this, that he can be a little bit wild off the tee. It's not going to matter as much this week. So what about him? Are you looking at him?
As you know, I picked him at as a one to watch at Farmers, and he finished top 5. Big left to right player. Another player like Tom Kim. Both those guys have a lot of pizzazz. I mean, they're not scared to take it in there, and Theegala is going to be swinging out of his shoes. He loves it. He loves being in front of the crowd. Some players are made up for the big moments. Some are not, Diane. Some are more reserved. Some are more plotters. These guys are flashy. When I say Theegala and Tom Kim, they're both. Vegas has got them at 50s and 60s. And you're looking at guys that have better stats than those two at 350. So they know that a pizzazz factor works into play this week.
Do you think that's why Will Zalatoris is skipping this week? Because we don't see, as I said, there's only 2 guys in the world top 20 missing, and Cam Smith doesn't have a choice. But do you think Will, it doesn't really suit his personality, and that's maybe why he's giving this week a miss?
No, I have no idea why Will's not playing, but if he was here, he'd be right up there with one of the top picks as well.
Yeah. Okay.
He's one of the most prolific iron players that we've seen on the tour for a long time. His proximity suits him perfect for this course.
And you have to worry because he was plagued by injury not long ago. So you just hope that this is not a sign that injury is kind of niggling him again.
Well, when you think about the upcoming schedule, you got, LA next week, and then then we cut all the way across. Okay, so we didn't talk, there's a lot of players in this field, Diane, that we have not spoken of, Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, we touched on. Cameron Young is back from playing. Tony Finau has a terrible record at this course. Max Honma just won at Torrey Pines. I tend to think Max would have a good chance, but he normally wins these tournaments, Diane, where everyone else has a hard time putting. San Diego, twice at Napa, the one up in Washington, D.C., where it's just raining and windy. And this is pool table greens this week. So that's the only reason, if you're thinking, why are they not talking about these other top players? But can't talk about everyone.
Colin Morikawa too. I was between him and Matsuyama for my outright favourite, but Morikawa's in some great form right now. So it's tough. And we're going to have this problem. It's not a problem, but as we have these elevated events, next week, talking about the Genesis at Riviera, obviously the course where you won the PGA Championship, it's going to be another one of these ones where you've got the cream of the crop playing for this insane amount of money. So we'll be talking about that next week. But you are in Scottsdale. It's the place to be this week with the WM Phoenix Open, and then all building up to the Super Bowl on Sunday. And you're going to be playing some golf and having some fun.
Yep. My wife and I are out here. The weather's perfect. Going to slip out to the Waste Management, see a few of the friends.
Right, Alec, thank you so much. We will see how our picks get on this week at the WM Phoenix Open, and we'll be back next week to talk all things Riviera.